Hey, I'm Sara Gonzales. Welcome to the news and why it matters. We have Mr. Jeff Fisher in the house today.
Thank you.
Direct from intensive care.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
Glenn, what is your top story?
Top story, I have an update on China that nobody else is going to give.
Did you say Gina?
China. That no one will give. It's really important for your personal income coming up in the next few months or year. But the fun we were all promised has arrived. And I'll tell you what that is.
Okay, all right, Stu.
I plan on doing the Congresswoman Omar and her anti-Semitic comments and her kind of coming off the Women's March, where we saw Glenn just did this expose, if you just missed it, about the Women's March and the anti-Semitism. Though I wouldn't mind having some fun with your main topic as well.
Yes,
I think that might be the way to go.
Jeffy.
Well, as you know, there's a shutdown. And people are suffering. I read an article the other day where a lady said that her family was going to have to cut back on going out to a restaurant. So
Oh my gosh, it's that bad.
people are suffering.
It's that bad.
People are suffering. Wow. But as you well know, Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House, wrote a letter to President Trump saying he wasn't going to be welcome for the State of the Union. And people were upset that he hadn't responded yet. He has responded.
Oh, it's every bit of what you've dreamed.
It really is. This one is.
Before we get into that, I want to thank our sponsor, iTarget Pro. So over the weekend, I got a text from our friend. He was just here yesterday, Chad Prather, who just joined the Blaze TV. And he texted me and said, what is the name of that gun thing that you guys were talking about on the show? Because I keep talking about it. It sounds so cool. I have to have one. He was talking about iTarget Pro. So for all of you who are spending money on ammunition and range fees, you don't really have to do that. We're in 2019 now. And you can actually just use a laser. So Glenn, you explain this a little bit better than me. It's a laser bullet. That's all that I know to say.
Yes, I think that's the technical way to put it.
Also how Dr. Evil explains
Yes. It is actually a little
Laser
device.
bullet.
It's about the size of a bullet, and you actually chamber the round. And it just is, when the hammer hits, it hits the laser and it fires that laser and it hits the target. The laser hits the target and records it on your cell phone or your iPad or whatever. So you're at home just cocking the gun and pulling the trigger and shooting across the room a laser. And it's not like a laser that you can kind of point and then fire. It's just boom, there it is. Boom, there it is. It's fantastic for trigger control. Fantastic way to work on your target practice without spending any money.
Yeah. Or if you just want to have a little friendly family competition in the living room of who has the best aim, you can do that as well. Go to itargetpro.com, get 10% off of your order plus free shipping right now with promo code NEWS. That is itargetpro.com. It pays for itself after a very short amount of time. All right, Glenn.
40 years in broadcast. 40 years in broadcast.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. Every time there's an election, somebody or I will say, I'd like to see that happen just for the fun. Okay? I'd like to see that person elected just for the fun. Anytime you've ever heard anyone say, I'd love to see that happen just for the fun, it has arrived. And it is more fun than I ever dreamt possible. So Nancy Pelosi says to the president, as a punishment, you may not give the State of the Union. Now I'm dancing inside.
Good.
Now I got a frowny face because I'm like, oh no, Nancy, don't do that. That hurts too deeply. I love, and so do the American people, the whole pomp and ceremony of the State of the Union. So she says that. We outline a way for Trump just to mop up with that, okay? And then they're like, oh, people are hurting. People might have to go to restaurants for a while, okay? There was a story in the Washington Post today about how, think of this is the greatest thing ever. How people who work for the federal government, they may not see this as a stable employer, and they might start looking for jobs elsewhere, and you might have a hard time hiring federal employees.
That's worse than restaurants.
Yeah, right? Please don't make that happen. Okay, so in response, The president has issued this to Nancy Pelosi. Now, Nancy, well, I'll give you this. To the Honorable Nancy Pelosi, dear Madam Speaker. And I think he meant that with all the respect that position deserves. Due to the shutdown, I am sorry to inform you that your trip to Brussels, Egypt, and Afghanistan has been postponed.
Oh, no.
We will reschedule this 7-day excursion when the shutdown is over. In light of the 800,000 great American workers not receiving pay, I'm sure you would agree that postponing this public relations event is totally appropriate. I also feel that during this period, it would be better if you were in Washington negotiating with me and joining the strong border security movement to end the shutdown. Obviously, if you'd like to make this journey by flying commercial, that's certainly your prerogative.
Flying commercial in Afghanistan.
I look forward to seeing you soon, and even more forward to watching our open and dangerous southern border finally receive the attention, funding, and security it so desperately deserves. Donald Trump. Donald.
Wow.
Wow.
There you go.
Yes, you had me at dear Madam Speaker. This is great. I think Donald Trump, with this shutdown, is turning a corner. For as bad of a December that he had, he is having a hellaciously great January. And it's because he listened to his voters. No president has had the balls to go, oh, you mean the federal workers? The ones who are costing all the taxpayer money? They're spending it all and we're only getting about 40% of that money going to good stuff? You mean they're going to be not able to go to a restaurant from time to time? Oh. And nobody's had the guts to do that. He has the guts to do it. I wouldn't mess with him. I mean, if you were sitting there, it's the twitchy eye I've waited for. If you were negotiating against him and somebody said, don't worry, you can wait him out. I'm now looking across the table going, I don't think so.
No.
I don't think so.
I hope that's true.
In fact, we're offering $5 billion now. He's the kind of go, yeah, I would have taken that a couple of days ago. It's now 10. Right. You know?
Well, the Democrats already did that to him. It was 25, and now it's only 5.
Right. And it's not going to work out well for them.
I mean, it'll be interesting. First of all, I love this just because it's fun. You know, I mean, at this point, like, I don't know, these stories at times are just, you know, they make you want to hang yourself. And it's like, this is just like fun. I mean, like the fact that he's going back at her. And I think Nancy should come back and say, you know what? I'm going to really get him back and cut federal spending by 50%.
No, don't do that.
No. Boy, I shouldn't have given her that suggestion.
Don't do that.
I hope she doesn't do that to get back at him, because then he wouldn't be able to do his...
No. Don't do that.
Do not
Please,
dare her.
Nancy. That would be the worst ever.
It's like this point, you know, this trip that she's going to say is meaningful, that's going to cost us millions of dollars, that obviously she's going to get nothing out of because they never do. Good, I'm glad. I don't know. I guess because it's why can he restrict this? Why can he stop this?
He's the chief executive.
Well, he restricted the travel, right? The government travel. He can't restrict the trip. He said she can fly commercial.
Right.
He's the chief executive. So think of this as the CEO of a company.
Right, but he doesn't get to make.
He can say, you know what? Shutdown. We're not authorizing this. We're not flying any. No, we're not flying.
I just didn't know that he would authorize her trips, but it's because she's on like a highly protected military plane.
Correct. So he has to authorize the military to fly her and other government officials to break the what do you call it, shutdown, to be able to go.
Right. And he's not doing that. It's interesting. I think this makes him feel like a happy warrior, right? And I think that is the mode that could break him out of this, right? Because
big time.
You know, if he comes off as like, you know what, I know I'm right on this principle. I'm sticking by it. You want to come and play these dumb little games? I'll play them right back with you, whatever. But the bottom line is this principle matters of the border being secured. I mean, right now the polling does not look great on any of this stuff for him. I mean, the emergency thing
really
didn't look good. The wall polling is very low. People are blaming him for the shutdown. I think this. I think this helps,
I don't
right?
know.
Like
It
it definitely helps with
helps.
his base. I think he's.
But
base
who
is
the
wrapped up.
hell? Who? Tell me. Unless you're outside, you're the snow cone person or the hot snow cone person at Yellowstone, and so nobody's coming in for your hot snow cones as they're skiing around Yellowstone. I don't even know. I don't know. Who's really, truly the troops? Got to take care of the troops. TSA, that's not good. Security stuff.
Yeah, there
but
are
other
some
than
things,
that,
yes.
who's really feeling the impact beside federal workers?
I mean, look, I would absolutely support a federal workforce that is 800,000 people smaller than the one we currently have. So the problem with this is, right, you're laying people off, and the 800,000 are obviously affected. However, they get their money back, right? The cab driver that drives these people around D.C. every day does not get a refund. Right. The people who have the restaurants where they go to lunch every day does not get a refund.
That's the hot snow cone guy.
Right, I mean, there are...
And those guys I feel bad for.
Yeah, that's legitimately an issue. And there are other big things. There's flood insurance that if a huge flood happens, like, what are we going to do? We're going to have to pass a law later to reimburse people because they can't renew the flood insurance.
If you are the hot snow cone person, this is
hot snow cone. What is this?
I don't
Yellowstone
know.
Park.
I don't
You
know
never
what's
had a hot
happening
snow
at Yellowstone Park. It's probably closed for snow anyway. But if you are there on the edge of the park and you're not getting any people that want to go stand out and see buffalo in the wild when it's 2 outside, you're a blanket salesman at the corner of Yellowstone and Park.
It only took about 3 minutes to get to a logical example. Good job. Good job.
Don't do this
maybe
for a
hot
living.
chocolate would have been the obvious.
All right, okay, we're getting somewhere. You're starting to go with the flow. Now I've kind of lost. Oh, if you're that person, you would start to say exactly what the Washington Post said. The government isn't the most reliable partner here. It's maybe the government shouldn't be the one that I'm relying on for my security.
Go ahead, Jeff.
No, I was just going to say another favorite part of the letter from President Trump to Nancy Pelosi is that people were waiting for him to respond and how would he respond. And this, according to reports, this response was like an hour or 2 before she was ready to go.
So amazing.
So she had her bags packed.
Oh my gosh.
And got the letter like, nope, we're not going. The plane's not leaving the tarmac, Nance.
I love it. And this back and forth is very entertaining, but it really does highlight big other issues. Like, for example, this trip, Nancy Pelosi shouldn't do this trip. It's dumb.
Right.
She shouldn't be going on a trip to these 3 countries right now, especially in the middle of a shutdown. But it was dumb anyway. She would get nothing done. It was pointless. We do this stuff all the time. We waste millions and millions of dollars every year with these little trips to raise profiles overseas and all that other nonsense. And in addition to that, the biggest thing I think is how dependent our country is on this. I think, look, as this goes on and on and on, it will become more problematic. More things will start falling through the cracks. And this is what the Democrats are waiting for, because something will happen.
No, if there's a terrorist attack or anything like that, we're in deep trouble. He will lose that PR battle.
You think so? I'm not so sure, because he keeps coming out and saying, I'm waiting for you to come to the table. I'm waiting for you to negotiate with me, and they're refusing to negotiate.
The average American isn't paying attention, and they see the clip where he says, yeah, you go ahead, blame it on me.
Now, at first, I think that's where their heads went.
Yeah,
but the longer this goes on.
The Democrats have been positioned by every media for the average person. Democrats are positioned as the reasonable ones who just want some reasonable.
Just want a deal.
They want common sense border reform. I hate that.
We offered to open up the government and then talk the border, but he wouldn't do it.
He wouldn't do it.
They did, and I will say, forget about Donald Trump, who has obviously will just stick through this stuff, and he doesn't care. I think this is the main part of the job he actually likes is this back and forth. He loves this stuff.
But this is what the American people
and they love it.
The people that voted for him. That's what I heard when I walked down the line of people who were voting, and I talked to Trump supporters. They said the same thing to me over and over again. Glenn, we've done it the other way. I want somebody who will burn the house down. Now, this isn't burning the house down. This is just saying, I'm not playing by your rules. I don't care. I'm not afraid of you. Right. That's what people want.
Sure
is.
It's just a question of, is that something that over long term has switched? Because right now, people are blaming him. They're saying they don't want his, the emergency thing was minus 35 when they pulled it, which may be the reason why we haven't heard much about it in the last couple of days. Every part of this, every out for him looks rough. And so maybe the dynamics change after a couple of weeks.
I disagree. You had the right idea a week ago with Ted Cruz. That's his out.
I like that.
His out is, I would do, if she doesn't let him go to Congress, the Republicans should open up the doors. The Republicans should be seated. They should have a very different State of the Union, not all that pomp and circumstance. He should walk down and go, guys, no clapping and all that stuff. Guys, we're here to do work. The other party has decided not to show up. That's shameful, because here's the State of the Union. Problem, solution, problem, solution, problem, solution. We can get things done, but when they won't even come to the table because it's an election year, that's the problem.
Okay, so President Trump, whenever you're going back at the end of your day and watching the news and why it matters, you're welcome for the advice. Back in a minute.
Make it yours.
Please.
Thank you.
We talk all the time about morals declining, right? And what we're allowing our kids to do and to watch and to see. And one of our sponsors, it is CosmoHurtsKids.com. And so Victoria Hearst, who is actually a member of the Hearst family who owns Cosmopolitan magazine, she has decided to take a stand against what they're doing right now, which is, Jeffy, correct me if I'm wrong, but right now, Cosmopolitan magazine, with all of their risque pictures and articles and all of that.
The articles are horrible. The pictures are bad, but the articles
are really bad.
And that they talk about on the cover of the magazine to tease what's inside. So she wants Cosmopolitan magazine to be required to be
adult.
What is it? Material harmful to minor laws,
right.
That they should fall under that.
Right. So only adults purchase the magazine.
Right.
So not trying to get them to stop anything else other than selling to minors.
Yes. So she is, of course, an advocate of free speech. She doesn't want them to not exist. She just thinks that, hey, our kids maybe should not be looking at this kind of material. It's adult content. It should be labeled so. So if you want to hear more about this campaign, you can go to CosmoHurtsKids.com. I recommend going there. We talk all the time about how we need to do something and stand up for, the decline in society, and this would be a really great way to do it. CosmoHurtsKids.com. Stu, I want to switch to your top story.
Yeah, if you haven't watched the TV show, Glenn's TV show today, there's an expose about the Women's March. That happens this weekend. Now, this is the thing that the first time it happened was the day after Trump was inaugurated, right? So lots of people went. It was a big thing. And it was kind of like a grassroots sort of movement at the very, very beginning.
Very beginning.
But then it quickly turned into a bunch of activists who had this minor thing that was an issue in which they didn't seem to like Jews all that much, which is a little strange.
Or white people.
Yeah. I mean, real problems with race and anti-Semitism in the movement, and that's developed more and more. And Glenn went through all that.
It's not a problem if you don't like white people.
But I will tell you this: it's not the movement. The movement, I think, and I don't agree with them, but the movement when it was started on Facebook, I think, was like the Tea Party. It was a grassroots thing that was hijacked by leadership that was wildly radical.
Yeah.
BLM kind of stuff.
Yeah, and worse, I think. And you went through all that on the TV show. But I want to point out that it's not just the Women's March movement. It's not just activists. We have people who are in Congress who have said things just as bad, if not worse, than the people in the Women's March. Here is Ilhan Omar. She is a new congresswoman, and she's, I'm sure, delightful if you were to meet up with her and have a cup of coffee or something. But here's what she also has tweeted. Israel has hypnotized the world. May Allah awaken the people and help them see the evil doings of Israel. Yeah, exactly. Here is her. Now, this is just one of several congresswomen. We can go through some of them. There's been a few that have had similar, really problematic tweets about Israel in particular, doing all sorts of things, including like putting, they go to their office and they've got a sticky note of Palestine over the country of Israel. Like, I mean, real things where, the anti-Semitism and anti-Israel behavior is pretty blatant. Here she is now trying to respond to a little criticism. I'm sure it's incredibly light from Christiane Amanpour about these comments.
Should Jewish Americans be worried about Congresswoman Ilhan Omar or Rashida Tlaib because of the BDS movement, because of one of the tweets that you made a long time ago? You're part of a new wave of Democrats not afraid to be critical of the government of Israel. And during the 2012 military offensive in Gaza, you tweeted, "Israel has hypnotized the world. May Allah awaken the people and help them see the evil doings of Israel." How do you put that into context now, and what do you say to American Jews?
So I remember when that was happening, watching TV and really feeling as if no other life was being impacted in this war. And that really, those unfortunate words were the only words I could think about expressing at that moment.
Right. Yeah, the only words you could think about expressing was that Israel was evil.
A long time ago.
Again, this is not a minority position in the Democratic Party. I think she's just expressed it. However, the other congresswoman she talked about, same type of thing. They're both involved with this BDS movement, which is blatantly anti-Semitic. She, not her, but Rashida Tlaib, or I can't remember how she pronounced it. Christiane always has a different pronunciation than anything I've ever heard in America. So it's probably the right one, but she had had an extensive relationship with the BDS movement. Had someone in their office who was praising Hezbollah and Hamas. These are recognized terrorist groups. This is a real thing in the Democratic Party. There's plenty of politicians who are over there, but these are the people who really believe these things. And if they get control of that party and they're getting closer and closer to it, they probably already have it. It's scary.
The question is when will Jeffrey Katzenberg, when will Steven Spielberg, when will the Jews of the Democratic Party say, I'm in a hostile place? I met a year ago in Hollywood one of the biggest donors of the Democratic Party. And I wanted to talk to him because he's a big Jewish Israel supporter. And I wanted to talk to him about something. And I was surprised that he said yes. And I sat in his office and I said, why would you meet with me? Because your name is on buildings for the Democratic Party. Literally, they have named one of their main buildings after this guy because he's given so much money. And he said, because I'm done. He said, they have become so radical. When you have Keith Ellison in your upper ranks, and it's much worse than it was a year or two with Keith Ellison. It's so bad. He said, I cannot give them any more money. They are becoming a racist, anti-Semitic group. And it was shocking to hear. And I'm wondering when the Jewish organizations are going to say, okay, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, you could say, I obviously think Chuck Schumer's terrible, but Chuck Schumer's not anti-Israel, right? And that's the thing that they're...
nor anti-Semitic. You can be anti-Israel and not anti-Semitic.
Yeah, that's true. And this new group, though, seems to be going the wrong side of that border. And,
and what a surprise, they're all socialists.
Shocking. All right, we got to take a break. Back in a minute.
How long did we talk about that?
Those of you who have not already done so, which I don't know what you're waiting for, because we've got an awesome lineup at theblazetv.com. You have to go check it out. We've got, of course, Glenn.
Steven Crowder premiering tonight.
Today, yes.
Tonight. Great.
We've got Graham Allen. We've now, as you just heard yesterday, we've got Chad Prather. We've got all the big names under one roof. You can go to blazetv.com right now. Use promo code NEWS for $10 off of your annual subscription, and we will see you guys in overtime.